here from Jimbo. I guess let's just start like in order. So this is the 3DS. Ooh, that's a tough one. I'd have to put the 3DS maybe triple S. It's not like the greatest. Now here's the thing. Do we count? How do we grade these? I think is going to be the real question. How do we grade these? Modded or unmodded? You know what I mean? Do we just go unmodded just based on their catalog alone? Stock? All right. Well, yeah, I think unmodded is the way to go. So 3DS, then I'd have to put it like an A. I wasn't a big 3DS guy, and a lot of the great games are just ports, but it's still like a great console, right? Like it's still a good console, I think. Now, if it was modded, I'd put it up to like triple S, but I'm gonna go A. What is this? Is this the Game Gear? I had one of these as a kid. I'd put it like a B, maybe. It was a pretty tight console for the time, to be honest with you. I don't have much to say about it though. If it's a console that I haven't played or messed with, I'm gonna skip it because like there's a ton of consoles on here. Like the 32X and the Sega CD, I don't have much experience with, or like the Turbo Graphics. Like I don't really have any experience. So PS3, one of the greatest systems of all time. Even unmodded, like the catalog is incredible. You have Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto 4, LA Noire. Those are just the Rockstar games. All of the Killzone games, all of the HD collections that you can have for this console. The Sly Cooper, Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank collections. It's got to be the greatest system, one of the greatest systems of all time, in my opinion. Metal Gear Solid 4, the Metal Gear Solid HD collection. The amount of games you can play on this thing, even unmodded, is just incredible. You know? So, definitely that. What is this, like a Game & Watch or something? I don't know what that is. Or, I don't know what this is either. So, I'm going to skip that. So, this is the PS4. I'm going to put PS4 at like S. Honestly. PS4 was a pretty damn good system. You know what I mean? It really was. PS4 was a damn good system. Maybe not triple S. I mean, I don't know. Maybe triple S. It's close. I'm going to put it in an S for sure. I'm going to put it in an S. There was some bangers. Red Dead Redemption 2, Grand Theft Auto 5, you know. It had a ton of great games. Bloodborne, Sekiro. There was some absolute bangers for the PS4. I think if you give it some time, I think the PS4 will be remembered very fondly. And I think it's probably the last really good console generation that we're going to experience, unfortunately, until we experience a crash. I don't know what that is. Game Boy. I'm honestly, I mean, if I can be real, I'm putting the Game Boy at an S. I am. I'm putting the Game Boy at an S, and it's simply because the Pokemon games and the platformers, man. And I'm not like a big 8-bit guy by any means, but this was the handheld that this and the GBA were like the handhelds that I used more than anything else, for sure. I loved my Game Boy. Like, maybe it's just nostalgia talking, but the form factor, the usability of the Game Boy Color, it was awesome. It was such a great console. Is that supposed to be the Super Nintendo? Oh, there's the Super Nintendo. So I don't know what that is. Is it like a Japanese NES? I don't know. Whatever. I think that's a Genesis, but there's also Genesis down here. So whatever. The Game Boy Advance SP. Greatest systems of all time. Greatest systems of all time. Easy. I mean, from the form factor it's just the peak library. Some of the best Pokemon games. Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, Golden Sun. So many fucking classics. I loved it. I honestly, I wouldn't mind having a Game Boy Advance SP. Like, I kind of wish I had one, to be honest with you, because I love this console so much, man. I think it's probably, in terms of just like form factor, like the greatest design for a handheld console nearly ever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think anything beats it. I think form factor alone, it's got to be like the greatest handheld console ever. The clamshell design, incredible stuff. So I'm putting that up there for sure. I don't know. That's a 3DO. Never played. We already did the Game Boy. Nintendo DS. I'm gonna put it right next to the 3DS. Had a pretty good catalog for sure. I never really messed with it that much though. I think it had a good design too, but I was never big on the dual screen stuff, to be honest with you, and the touchscreen. I never really liked the touchscreen stuff, to be honest with you. So, sorry, this is like literally every console on it. I know, yeah. I'm gonna just skip the duplicates or whatever. Or stuff that I'm not familiar with. We're just going to go with the big ones. So, how can we send you our tier list? Super chat them in. Power chat to live/beardsandbeardly. But yeah, DS was a good console for sure. I liked it, but not a big fan. Okay, this is Steam Deck. Honestly, I'll put the Steam Deck at, even though it's like I'm not a personally big fan of it. I think it's a triple S though. Just for, again, the amount of games that you can play for it and everything else, it's got to be on the triple S. And again, you don't even have to mod it. You can download, you know what I mean? Like, there's no modding required. You have like infinite amount of games so you can play for this thing. I think that the design feels kind of cheap. Like, I don't like the sticks on it. I feel like the sticks feel kind of weird. And again, the form factor is a bit of a problem, but just based on the library, I mean, that's hard to say no to. That's got to be triple S, even if it's not my own personal favorite. Xbox One. That's a B. It's got to be like a B for me. No real exclusives that I can name that were really any good. It had some good third-party stuff, but it just wasn't that exciting to me. The Switch, I'll do the like the regular Switch, not the Switch Lite, because I think that's the Switch Lite. Atari, that's the Game Gear. Xbox Series X, I'm gonna put it at a C. I'm gonna put it at a C. The thing is, I like the console. I think it's a good console. There's just nothing to play for it at all. Like, there's nothing. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna put it at a D. Cause like I'm gonna put it at like an E. Cause I'm not gonna have a whole lot of Fs. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna have a whole lot of Fs, but so I'm gonna put this down there like an E. Cause there's simply nothing to play for this thing at all. Xbox One is a C. Yeah, you're kind of right, actually. The more that I think about it, it is kind of a C. Because it just had no exclusives. And it's the same with this, but there's even less third-party games to play. Now, Game Pass obviously keeps it from being, I think, F or worst systems, but it's damn close. I'm not a big fan. Original Xbox. I'm gonna put that as an S, I think. I think S is a good place. Halo 1 and 2, tons of weird exclusives, like that zombie game or whatever, and the Blinks the Cat. I mean, there was some good, and the controller. I loved the Duke, you know. I loved the Duke. The only problem with the console to me, I mean, I don't know, man. It didn't have a whole lot of games was the problem. And there wasn't a whole lot of there wasn't a whole lot of like cool Japanese exclusives because the system wasn't very popular in Japan. And Xbox still really isn't that popular in Japan, so it kind of suffers from that. But it had a lot of great games. I think it's a great console. So Xbox Live, it had Halo 2. It's going triple S. It had Halo 2. Yeah, you know what? Never mind. Never mind. I gotta revise that. It is a triple S console. I don't have one. Maybe that's what it is. I'm salty because I don't have one. Maybe I need to go buy one, honestly. But I'm just afraid because like these things are like ticking time bombs. I had one. Yeah, it had Jet Set Radio Future. I still have my copy of that game, and I can't play it. It pisses me off because I don't have the console. I found my old one from when I was a kid, but the capacitors in it blew up and just ruined the board entirely. So they broke down. So it's because there's obviously hard drive failure is a big problem. Because they had hard drives in them, and they have a capacitor on the board that's just for the clock that you can remove, and you should remove it. But for some reason that capacitor just blows up. So if you don't remove that capacitor, they basically blow up and it leaks all over the board and just ruins everything. So. They don't last. They don't have a good shelf life, unfortunately. All right, what's next here? What's next on the list? Master System. I'm not really too familiar with. Sega Saturn. This is gonna be a controversial. This is a triple S console. It really is, dude. People slept on the Saturn. People sleep on the Saturn. I dug mine out recently, and I've been playing it, and there are so many fucking games for this thing that nobody has played. And honestly, it's just because a lot of the games never got released. There was only like 200 games that got released here in the US for the Saturn. But there are so many fan translations for Japanese games because they released like 1,400 games in Japan. And just not a lot of these games got localized, unfortunately. Like weird shit too. It's just a fantastic fucking console. Now again, if we're talking like unmodded, maybe I should dump it down a little bit, but I just feel like it's not even really modding it. Just buy a cartridge for it and burn CDs and you're good to go. It's awesome. It's such a good console, man. I love this thing. It's such a fantastic console. So many good games for it. Anyways, if you like the content, support the stream, Power Chat Live. Let me know your thoughts. If I'm wrong, if you guys disagree on anything, let me know. Let me know your thoughts at powerchat.live/Beardson Beardly if you guys have any comments. PS2, I mean, you know my answer to that. That's actually, I'm putting that right there as the greatest console of all time. Just in terms of base library, it's the greatest console of all time. It is. I don't think anything needs to be said, honestly, about that. It is the greatest console of all time. Over 2,000 games, I think, for the console. Highest selling game console of all time for good reason. It's the best. Everything about it. The controller, the design, the library. One of the first consoles to have online play. First console to ever have an MMO on it. Well, maybe Dreamcast. If you count Final Fantasy Star Online as an MMO. But it's the greatest. I don't even need to say anything more. All right, what else we got? A bunch of Atari stuff, Xbox One again, PS5. I'm gonna put the PS5 at like I'm feeling a strong B. I think it's a B. I'm feeling a strong B because here's the thing. I love the console. I think the console looks awesome. It looks like a piece of like alien hardware, And even though it doesn't have a whole lot of games, I think some of the games that it does have are pretty good. Like there are a couple decent exclusives for the console, and there's a lot I do like about the PS5, and I do want it to be good, but I just it just needs a better catalog of games. That's the only problem, man. There's some, but there's just simply not enough to I think even justify the purchase right now, unfortunately. I liked Returnal, I liked Stellar Blade, I'm trying to think of any of the PS5 exclusives that I played that I really enjoyed. I like those two games. Yeah. Astrobot, I'm sure, is a good game. The Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I didn't even finish it, to be honest. I didn't really like it. I platinumed the first one, so yeah, I don't know. PS5's a strong B. It could rise for sure, but I'm just feeling a B. PS1. I feel like, again, that's got to go in the list of like one of the greatest consoles of all time. I mean, maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm just like a Sony guy. But like the JRPGs on this console, like, don't get me wrong, PS1, a lot of those games didn't age that well, admittedly, you know? This is definitely the era of games where like Zoomers, I think when they criticize retro games, like they're sometimes right. These games didn't necessarily age all that well, some of them. But then you look at some of the JRPGs or games like Silent Hill or even like the Resident Evil games. Even the platformers like the Spyro games or Crash Bandicoot, Metal Gear Solid 1, obviously, the Castlevania games on the console. It still to this day hosts some of the greatest games of all time. I think PS1 has to be in the conversation for one of the greatest consoles of all time. So, just no argument. I mean, I just feel like that's just a given. I'm kind of sad that I don't own a PS1, but I have a PS2, so it's like I feel like I don't even really need it. But still, I love the design of it too. I just love that design. I think it's an iconic looking console. So, all right, what do we got next? Wii U. Wii U is arguably an F. It sucks. No games at all. I hated the gamepad. I did. I hated the gamepad for this thing. Wii U has to be, honestly, not even, it's got to be worst systems ever. Now, again, if you mod it, I hear it's pretty good. I hear it's a pretty good console to mod, for, like, to be fair. I had one. I had the Legend of Zelda Special Edition that came with Wind Waker. And I just never played it because there was nothing to play. Don't get me wrong, a couple good games. The Wind Waker HD remaster was good. Obviously, Smash Brothers was good. The 3D World game was really good. The Mario 3D World game was really good. That's really all that comes to mind that even came out for that console, though. You know what I mean? Like, just nothing came out for this fucking thing, dude. So, and everything else came out on other consoles. So I think the only thing that's still locked is the Wind Waker HD remake, and you can just, I don't know, emulate it or get a GameCube or a Wii. So yeah, I'm gonna go there. It's got to be one of the worst systems of all time. We did DS, we did Game Gear, we did Game Boy Advance, GameCube. Ooh. I feel like GameCube's a triple S. I feel like GameCube is a strong triple S. It had an amazing library. And it did. It had a really good library. But not as big of a library as I think not as varied of a library. It was sort of missing some of those more edgy, mature rated games that like Xbox and PS2 were getting. PS2 was like really, it won that console generation for a reason, right? GameCube was definitely the more family friendly console. Xbox was definitely the more like mature, edgy console. And then PS2 was like everything, you know? Xbox was sort of missing like a lot of those weird Japanese games, and GameCube was missing sort of those more mature games. But PS2 had everything. It had the family-friendly games that were awesome. It had the mature games. It had the weird Japanese games. It had just everything. You know, there's no, you know, but it's still the Super Mario Sunshine, Wind Waker, Super Smash Bros. Melee, you know, Super Monkey Ball, Luigi's Mansion, you know, Metroid Prime 1 and 2. So many games on the GameCube are like absolute classics. So it's hard to not put it up there in the Triple S category. And it had some weird stuff too. So I think Triple S is a good spot for it. And I like the controller a lot, honestly. I think the GameCube controller is one of the best, honestly. One of my favorites. And the Wavebird, oh man. NES, it's a D for me, honestly. I know that's gonna be like, I think that go back and actually play through that 8-bit generation now. Does not hold up, man. It really doesn't. Everything on the NES is a fucking 2D side-scrolling platformer. Everything. Every game. Except for like a couple, like Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy. It is not to say that some of those platformers are good, but that's all that it's on there. That's all that's on there. You know what I mean? That's all that there is. And I like platformers, but there's only so much of that shit you can take, man. Just play, like seriously, all you gotta do, I wouldn't bother buying an NES, just buy a Super Nintendo and get Super Mario All-Stars and just play the best platformers on that system. That's it. That's all I gotta do. That's all I gotta do. Easy. So I'm not a big fan of the NES. I think people that glaze that system are looking at it through nostalgia glasses. I didn't have a Sega CD, so I can't rate that. But we do have the Sega Genesis here. I'm gonna put Genesis at like maybe a B. I think a strong B. I think a strong B. Again, sort of the same problem. A lot of 2D platformers. Graphics were good though. It had stuff like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter. There's a lot of hidden gems on that console. NBA Jam. It was a good console. I liked the Genesis. I grew up with a Genesis. You know? But I think a B is pretty fair. And I still have a Genesis too. I have a Genesis and I like it a lot, but it's a lot of the same stuff. Like, let's be honest again. You know, and if you like that kind of game, great console for you. But, you know, SNES, it's got to be one of the greatest. I mean, it really does. It does. Again, like, I just think that the SNES smoked the Genesis. And it was, again, just the games. Because while it may be a lot of the same stuff, the SNES had, like, the best games in terms of doing that. Earthbound and Final Fantasy 6 or 3, whatever you want to call it, are two of the greatest, if not the greatest RPG, like JRPGs of all time, you know? And Chrono Trigger. Then you had Super Metroid, arguably the greatest, like, Metroidvania game ever, you know? It had Super Mario World, which is the greatest, to me, the greatest platformer of all time. Like, it may have been limited in terms of, like, the genre of games that you could play on it, but it had the best games of all time in those genres, man. Like, still to this day, those games hold up, you know? You had Mario Kart, you know, you had Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter 2 on there, you know? I mean, it was the great, I think it was one of the greatest. In terms of a 2D console, nothing else came close to it. Nothing else. Yeah, Link to the Past. I mean, the greatest 2D Zelda ever made. I mean, there's just, I don't think there's any argument that this is. And again, Super Mario All-Stars with all of the Mario games on it. It's hard to ignore how great this console was, you know? So, yeah, it's got to be on there for greatest consoles of all time. Easy. Let's see, what else? What else we got? Where am I at? Right here. N64. I think the N64 is a strong A. I think it's a strong A. Close to an S, but a strong A. I think an A is fair. Now, don't get me wrong, Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time. And I like my N64. I love my N64. Great, it has a good catalog of games. But let's be honest here. That controller sucks ass. It does. It sucks. The controller sucks.
Google, show me this guy's balls, please.
Hey.
Abdul Rahman sent $3. What time is it in America?
Right now it is 10 a.m. for me. Thank you for the 3, buddy. Appreciate it. And be like Abdul. Support the stream. PowerChat.live/BeardsandBeardly. I hate this cliched nonsense talking point. The controller is fine. Dude, cliche or not, I have one and I've used it recently. I don't like it. Okay? I don't like the controller, man. I just don't. It's fine. Like, I don't hate it. But it's fine. The joystick, yeah, the joystick sucks. The C buttons, I don't like the C buttons at all. Like, I just don't think it's a good controller. I love the Dreamcast, but the Dreamcast controls are awful. Dreamcast isn't that bad, at least. I can play Dreamcast okay. I think the Dreamcast has a good stick with like a good texture on it. But the buttons, it's like the button placement stuff just feels weird, yeah. But it's fine. Here's the thing, you know what saves the Dreamcast though? The VMU. That's what saves the Dreamcast controller for me. I like the VMU a lot. I like having the little screen.
God of Conquest 91 sent $10 paying money to convince you to put the N64 in S tier. Game library alone should put it in at least S tier.
Thank you, God of Conquest. Thank you for the 10. Thank you for the 10. I appreciate it. Yeah, the VMU is super cool. You had Super Mario 64, which was awesome. Oh, you know what though? Alright. You had No Mercy. You had No Mercy. I'll bump it up to an S. A soft S, but an S nonetheless. Because I did forget you had No Mercy, which is the greatest wrestling game ever made on that console. And it did have Ocarina of Time and Super Mario. Okay. That's fair. I mean, that is fair. Because like Ocarina of Time is probably like the best 3D Zelda. Super Mario 64, arguably the greatest 3D platformer. And the greatest, like, wrestling game. I guess I was thinking more like Smash Brothers and stuff. It's like, the Smash Brothers was good, obviously, on the N64, but it's like... There's been better iterations of it, you know? The problem is, though, it's like, I think people don't realize how limited the N64 library is. Like, it had these big games, for sure. But there's not a lot of variety on the console, again, man. And oftentimes, the ports to the N64 from the third-party games were inferior versions from the PS1 version because N64 used cartridge-based technology, which didn't have as much storage capacity as PS1 CDs. And So graphically, I think the PS1 had a better aesthetic. And you know, you look at the Resident Evil 2 port for the N64. It's fine. But it's a worse version of the game. But I like the N64. I'm not trying to shit on it, but you do have to take that into account. The library was pretty limited. No JRPGs hardly at all. You had like what, Quest 64. That was really about it, man. I mean, there's a small handful of RPGs on the console that didn't really do much. The library was super limited. There just wasn't a whole lot there. I think Nostalgia Glass is like, approach that console with like real clarity and look at that console and tell me that it like really belongs in the same category as like the GameCube or the Xbox, you know? I just don't think that it does. I love the console. I love it, man. But let's be real with ourselves here. GoldenEye carries the N64. Bro, go back and try to play through GoldenEye now. Like, let's be honest. Like, again, remove the nostalgia glasses for a minute. It's fine. But it's kind of ass now to go back and play. Like, let's be real. And I got a copy of it. I love GoldenEye. I played GoldenEye. But everybody wants to jerk off GoldenEye. It does not hold up. I'm sorry. It's just don't get me wrong, groundbreaking for the time. Aged like dog shit. Halo clears GoldenEye every day of the week, man. Paper Mario was good. That was like the only JRPG really. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a hot take, but it's that's just my take on it. Vita, I don't want to rate the Vita because I haven't really had time. I haven't gotten mine yet, so I don't want to really rate the Vita yet. Switch, right? This is the Switch. So we already done 3DS. Switch, I think Switch is. This is a tough one. Because I haven't really played a whole lot on my Switch in a long time. It's kind of sitting at dust, but man, I do like the Switch. Like, the Switch is a great, like, I know it's kind of like easy to hate on it, but like, let's be honest, man, it is a great console. It is a great console. And it's just like, it'd be weird for me to put the Switch on the same league as the N64. Because it does have Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey. It's got some great exclusive. The Luigi's Mansion games. Luigi's Mansion 3 was awesome. Man, it's tough. I'm on, you know, I don't know. I'm gonna go S though. I'm gonna go S. I think it does need more exclusives. For sure. It's got some good ones. It's got a large category, a large library of games, and I can't hate on it for that. And it does have the two new Zelda games, which are both really good. And it's got a good Mario game. I mean, the Smash Brothers, that is the best Smash Brothers game. For sure. I mean, just undoubtedly. And it does have the Switch Pro controller. I don't like the Joy-Cons too much, but I do. The Switch Pro controller is arguably one of the greatest controllers ever made, in my opinion. I love that controller. The Pro controller is goated. If you don't have a Pro controller, you're missing out. It's awesome. And I mean, okay, the ability to play it on handheld and TV. I mean, I think that'll. Okay, I am bumping it up to a triple S. I am. Just for that alone. That is, I mean, that is huge to be able to play it on your television. You know what I mean? Like, that is the best feature of any console ever. Ever. And it's really crazy to me that not every console is like that anymore. Like, so I think, and it revolutionized the industry too. Like, let's be honest, the Steam Deck and all of these like handheld PCs would not exist probably if it wasn't for the Switch. You know, like, let's be honest, it set the hallmark, it set the standard for all this. Revolutionized the game. So yeah, I think the Switch is a triple S console. Great library games. I need to play my Switch more. This is actually, talking about this is making me want to like mod my Switch and play more of it. Or like get a second Switch and mod it, because I don't want to get my Nintendo account banned. I got a lot of purchases on there, but yeah, no, it's yeah, because I definitely like the Switch better than the N64. I think it has a bigger library, better controls, better functionality. And even with the expansion pack for Nintendo Switch Online, you can play a lot of the N64 games on the Switch. You know, you do have to take that into consideration. Yeah, Switch is a triple S. For sure. Let's see what else. We did that. Xbox 360. Ooh. Xbox 360. I mean, I think it's got to be one of the greatest consoles of all time. I think if PS3 is up there, then absolutely the Xbox 360 is up there too. I do think that generation of gaming was the greatest generation of gaming that there was. And it's not even really nostalgia. I think that it was the era where gameplay really mattered more so than anything else, and there was a lot of innovation happening on both of those respective. I mean, some of the greatest games of all time, like the Call of Duty games, Arkham Asylum. I mean, so many classics. It had a pretty decent category of like JRPGs, although I think JRPGs were just in a bad state in general during this sort of era. But like Western RPGs definitely carried the flack. So you had like Elder Scrolls Oblivion and Skyrim. You had games like Dark Souls, sort of picking up the flack for the RPG front. Mass Effect and Dragon Age. Yeah, it's got a 360's definitely got a. I mean, Halo 3, Halo Reach, Halo ODST. I mean, I could go on. I could go on about that library. Yeah, it's got to be triple. It's got to be one of the greatest systems of all time. Controller was like the blueprint too. Like, I mean, let's be honest, it set the standard. Even Sony, to a certain degree, started copying the 360 controller. You know, it had a built-in hard drive, online play, the arcade in the store. It introduced achievements into the game, which I know like aren't as big of a deal now as they once were, but it's still like a pretty big deal. Like, you know, achievements again sort of revolutionized the industry, and even to a certain degree changed the way that people play games. You know, achievement hunting became a thing because of the Xbox 360. So it's got to be up there for the greatest consoles of all time. So I don't think there's much debate about that. I think everybody agrees on that. All right, so we finished this. What else? Game Boy we did. I think we've done just about everything. There's the Switch. PlayStation 1 we did. PS2 we did. PSP? I don't know. I mean, I had a PSP. I think that belongs in like a B tier. I think the catalog was pretty good. It was fine. It had some good hidden games on there, and I like the interface a lot. The media bar was really cool. Functionality of the system was really cool. UMDs, I actually really liked UMDs. And I like the design of the console too. I did like the design of the console, but it just didn't have a whole lot of the sticks. The controls kind of sucked. Like that little nub thumbstick really sucked, and I hated it. So I just wasn't a big fan of that, quite frankly. So, but it had a pretty decent catalog. So I think B is in a pretty good spot for it. I don't have much to say. I haven't played one in years, so. The Wii. We'll do this one. Ooh, the Wii. Oh, lose it? Yeah, I lost it. There we go. Ooh, Wii. Wii is an interesting one, man. Wii is definitely an interesting one. I feel like the Wii had a pretty good catalog. And it had a big catalog, but it also had like a ton of shovelware. And the forced motion controls. In some games, the motion controls were actually pretty good. Like light gun shooters and stuff were cool. But then in games like Skyward Sword, for instance, it was just terrible. I think the Wii is a solid A console. You know, Mario Galaxy was 1 and 2 were incredible. Twilight Princess was a great game, and I don't know. Punch Out was good. It had some fun like light gun games like House of the Dead, Overkill, and the Resident Evil ones, which were pretty good. So I mean, there's like some weird games on there too, like Madhouse, which was pretty good. But there's nothing really on that system that I've ever been like really clamoring to go back and play. I use my Wii more as a GameCube than anything else, to be honest with you. Like, there's nothing I'm really like, oh man, I gotta play that. You know what I mean? Gotta go back and play that one. I just don't really get that. So, I think an A though. I think A is a good spot for it. I think A is a pretty good spot for it. The Super Smash Bros. Game for the Wii was pretty good. Admittedly, probably one of the best because it had the emissary. And Wii Bowling, Wii Sports was goated too. Definitely was like a super fun console to play with your friends. For sure, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good spot for it. Dreamcast. Dude, here's the thing, man. Like, this list is going to be kind of bunked, but I think this belongs in one of the greatest systems of all time. I think this does. I think the Dreamcast belongs here. And I hate that I have more systems in like the greatest systems of all time category than anything else. But I mean, like these if you had these 6 systems alone, you would be set for gaming for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? The Dreamcast is the catalog alone. Soul Calibur, Shenmue, Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, Phantasy Star Online, Skies of Arcadia, an incredible library of arcade fighting games. Stuff like Power Stone 1 and 2. Code Veronica, Resident Evil Code Veronica. The list goes on. And a ton of weird stuff, too. Like Seaman. Like super, super crazy taxi. Choo Choo Rocket was awesome, Dude, I remember I went through a phase of just like burning every Dreamcast game, and I would have fun with almost every single one. Like, there wasn't really any bad games for the console. Like, even like the shovelware games for that console had like some fun to be had, you know? Like, it had the VMU, which was dope. So like one of the coolest like gimmicks ever, I thought, in my opinion. And it really, I think you could argue, sort of paved the way again in a weird way for like something like the Wii U and the Switch, you know? The technology wasn't there, obviously, but like it was this idea of taking your game on the go. And granted, it was like, oh, I'm just gonna train my Chow or whatever in Sonic Adventure on the go, but that's awesome, you know? That was so cool. It was really the first console to do online too, you know? Like in a meaningful way and like a cool way. Like, I played the Dreamcast online. I played Phantasy Star online with people. That was one of my first like online gaming experiences. Yeah, Jet Set Radio, dude. Like, I think it has to be up there for the greatest console of all time. Like, it has to be in that discussion. And it was just it had a cool aesthetic, a cool vibe, and it was just cut down in its prime, unfortunately. You know, I think if that system had a few more years to really cook, it really could have. I think it was just bad marketing, and just unfortunate management by Sega of America, which is the same thing that happened with the Saturn too. You know, same thing happened with the Saturn, because the Saturn was a huge success in Japan. Huge success in Japan, but it flopped over here in America because Sony of America was just retarded. And they decided that they didn't want to end the lifespan of the Sega Genesis because the Sega Genesis was a huge hit. So they came out with the 32X and the Sega CD, which were both pretty big flops. And they stalled the launch of the Saturn over here in the US because they wanted to extend the lifespan of the Sega Genesis. So it was just the Dreamcast was sort of a victim of just mismanagement. That's all that it was. It had nothing to do with the console. The console was great. It was just poor marketing, poor management by Sega, which is why they nearly went bankrupt. But I love the Dreamcast. I love it. And I have really good memories associated with my Dreamcast, because like I got the Dreamcast at a time where I was sort of like not really tapped into gaming anymore. And my grandpa bought me one for Christmas, just randomly, because it had to say, because he knew I loved like Sonic and stuff, and so he bought me that and a copy of Sonic Adventure for Christmas. I didn't even ask for it. I didn't even know what it was, and I was like blown away. I was blown away by it, and that's what. And really, it was the Dreamcast that sort of like reinvigorated my love for gaming as a kid. Loved that console. Like I still have the one that he gave me. I never got rid of it. I still got it. And yeah, love that console. It's fantastic, and it's just an amazing piece of hardware. So it's got to be in there for the greatest consoles of all time. All right, what else? I think we've done about everything. I don't think there's anything that we're missing here, right? We did all the major ones, at least, or the ones that I've played and owned. Yeah, pretty good tier list. Pretty good tier list, I think. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts. Power Chat Alive /Beards and Beardly. Support the stream. Support the stream. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on it. I don't want to do another tier list. I can't do another tier list. I can't do another tier list. I can't do another one, man. I'm tier list out. That was fun though. Thanks for the content.